Okay, dear teachers, welcome to week 1 of this course, online course for teachers, and my name is Lucian Ngeze. I will be taking you about the topic throughout this course, and my first part is to discuss about how we can be able to transform ourselves from moving from the ways we teach in the 20th century to the ways we teach in the 21st century. So as teachers, we need to make sure that we're adapting and being able to move based on the requirements of the students, but based on how the environment and context is changing, so that you can be able to get the maximum or involve or generate maximum knowledge or skills that your students can be able to get. So I want to know, first of all, the different challenges that you face when you are in the classroom teaching in different settings of your own classroom. So this is a reflection spot where you are required to take your pen and paper and then write down the following question, response to the following question. So what teaching and learning problems do you face in your own classroom? Also, you are teaching a subject like geography or biology or any topic. What teaching and learning problems do you face when you are teaching your own subject in your own classroom? So reflect and pause your video and respond to the question. Sleeping or not active that way, and sometimes some students may be shouting, or in some cases I'm not able to complete my syllabus because of some constraints in my own setting where I'm teaching. So those could be some responses from your side. Now let us take a scenario where we have two different teachers and having different ways of teaching their own subjects. So this is teacher A. Teacher A comes to class. He teaches his own subject and talks most of the time and demonstrates a little bit on how this problem is being solved and this and that. And then at the end, he gives appropriate homework to his students to be able to do. That is teacher A. Now think of teacher B. This teacher does not continuously teach all the time. So what she does is that she comes to class, takes some time to teach some portion of the topic, and then she makes her students be able to work on some activities, and then she lets them be able to practice and participate in the process of learning as well. And then she ensures that she gives them feedback on the activities they are doing so that they can be able to learn better when they are assimilating what they are learning. So now, a question could be, who is the best teacher, or what do you think could be the best method of teaching? Does teacher A use a good method of teaching, or does teacher B use a good method of teaching? So again, take your notebook and pen, write down the responses to this question, and then we'll generate a discussion on this. Okay, so welcome back. So in this scenario, we have seen that there are two teachers, teacher A and teacher B. And then teacher A teaches in the way we have explained, and teacher B goes a little bit deeper into the ways we can be able to help his or her students be able to learn better. So what we do is that teacher A gives only conceptual knowledge, because he's teaching all the time from the beginning to the end with only a little bit of the problem solution and then some homework. And of course, he does some demonstration of how this particular problem is solved or how this scenario can be done well, and probably with one or two examples. And then, of course, he gives some questions to students as homework to be able to do in their own free time. And there is also listening to what they are doing. And then, of course, there is also limited time for students to be able to do their practice in the classroom. That is teacher A. Now, teacher B, again, what she does is that she teaches for some period of time. Then in between, she gives some tasks that could be complex, so from simple to complex, or could be having some multiple solutions as well to help the students be able to learn better. And then she could be helping students be able to understand the concepts very well, but again, at the same time, increase their ways of solving solutions or problems in that particular context. But again, because the students are able to work on tasks and activities, she is making sure that they are having that peer learning way. They can be able to learn together and then be able to generate. There is also some collaboration in the way where you see students, 2, 3, 4, 5 students working together to give or to achieve a certain goal in the process of learning. So it becomes fun and enjoyable when you see students working in groups and participating together and then generating some artifacts or objects that could be used for them to be able to learn better. So that is the way teacher B is doing. So generally from these two scenarios, we can be able to see that teacher A gives a lecture for most of the time in the classroom and gives a little bit of the solution problem and then gives some homework. So in the 20th century, what we do, information was a premium thing. There was no internet at that particular time. We had a lot of books which were expensive at that time. And of course, there was limited access to some of the resources that you could be able to give to students to be able to work on. Hence, and therefore, that way of type of teaching which teacher A is using is actually referred or looking into the way 20th century type of teaching is. So students are mostly listening in the classroom, just listening and following up and doing a little bit of the exercises that they have to achieve in the end. And probably some 2-3 homeworks they have to do, and then that's all. So we don't see changes, therefore, that teachers can be able to teach better and then be able to help our students be able to learn better. So what we do is that in the 20th century, 21st century now, is that information is no longer premium, and therefore we have a lot of accessible resources and videos, animations, and some simulations and so on that you can be able to use in your own setting to teach you any subject that you want to teach, whether it's biology, whether it is civics, whether it is physics. Any of the courses can be taught in many ways, depending on how you are arranging your learning objectives and how you are aligning your technology into achieving your learning objectives. So that part we'll be able to see as we move forward. But this is the type where teacher B is coming into picture because of the different activities she is doing to help the students be able to learn better. And it is therefore necessary for teachers to be able to ensure that students are able to get some time to assimilate what they are learning in the classroom, and then be able to apply the information in their own ways to be able to help themselves be able to learn better. But again, they should be able to get feedback on what they are doing. If you are giving them activities, give them appropriate feedback on the activities so that they can be able to see where they have done better, where they have gone wrong, and what they could have been able to do to improve their own ways of teaching and learning. So therefore, we should have a shift from what you call the 20th century type of teaching to the 21st century type of teaching, where we are actually now student-centric, where we put the student in the center of the teaching, than the 20th century where it was actually teacher-centric, in the sense that all the information and the materials and resources were actually being generated by the teacher, comes to class, derives a question, then gives homework, does this, does this, does this. But today, we need also students to be able to come into picture. So give me more time for students to be able to work together and then be able to share what they are doing together. That is the way we want to see teachers in the 21st century be able to move forward. So there are a couple of ways we can be able to do that as we move forward. And one of the ways to achieve the type we need in the 20th century, 21st century type of teaching is actually what we call using the active learning strategies. That are strategies that use to help students and teachers be able to shift from the teacher-centric way of teaching to a student-centric way of teaching, of which we don't have this content-oriented learning anymore. We don't give content all the time as teachers. And then, of course, we have to be concerned on how our students are learning. Are they learning or gaining something? But then we should be able to see, to evaluate ourselves, that are we teaching better? Are our students actually getting what we are required to get at that particular time? So is learning happening in here? So if we are able to think of that, then that is where the active learning part should come into picture to be able to teach our students to be able to learn better. So in the next video, we'll be discussing about what is active learning and then be able to share some scenarios where you can be able to use active learning.